I know, the event has been out for like a week or something. Sorry for being late, I was playing Pokemon Emerald. So, facts about the sisters. 1. Number 12. This is the amount of NIAN siblings. That's a rather well-known fact. So essentially, including NIAN, there is a total of 12 siblings. 2 of those being Link and Dusk, obviously. Thanks to the most recent information though, there is a bit more we can say about the other siblings. First of all, 2 other ones, namely 2 brothers, get mentioned in Link's files, and one of them, from what I understood, straight up made an appearance in the event story. So that should make all of you who like Dragon Boys very happy. Other than that, there are other references to further potential siblings. A gardening sibling, a cooking sibling, and a calligraphy sibling. That being said though, it is totally possible that like one of the brothers and the gardening Donnie or one brother and the cooking Donnie are one and the same person, and that there are just overlaps there. So look, for your Pokédex, my bad, so look for your Dragon Girl Dex, that's 25% obtained, and you got information on like 41.6. While the grandpa who's named after a tree won't give you a fucking award for that, it's definitely something. Also, check this out. There are 12 siblings. NIAN dropped in 2020. We get 1 sibling per year. In the year 2032, you will have a full squad of NIAN siblings. Isn't that fucking awesome? Do you think that you will be playing the game then, by the way? Actually, that's a pretty stupid question. Nobody knows what will happen next week. How will you answer that? Number 2.
I think that is what they call a power play.
There is a pretty clear hierarchy, aka a younger to older dynamic, between the siblings. You will often see NIAN refer to Dusk as her younger sister and to herself as Dusk's older sister. Both of them though will refer to Link as their respective older sister. In Link's files we find some really interesting stuff about that matter. Essentially, ever since Link got to Rhodes Island, NIAN and Dusk have become way less dickheadish. It seems like the presence of a way older sister is kind of keeping them in check, if you wish. Which honestly is kind of cute, them trying to behave in front of their bigger sister and shit. Now you might ask yourself how exactly to determine the older to younger thing, cause there isn't really a fucking visible difference there. The question gets directly answered both in Invitation to Wine and Link's files. The age of the siblings, or let's say the age of a sibling relative to the other siblings, the younger to older order essentially, gets determined by the order in which the individual siblings have found an answer to the following question. Who is Joe? Who am I? Which I think can be translated to the order in which they gained consciousness and the feeling of existing as an individual after they were created. So essentially, the youngest one is the last one to make that realization. By the way, the 2 brothers we mentioned earlier seem to be the oldest out of all the siblings. Number 3.
How's your mother?
So, we just discussed how their age was determined by when they gained consciousness after being created, right? Well, let's talk about that creation thing, because while many creatures on a similar power level will say that they were born, not created, the siblings are pretty much aware of the fact that they did not just slip out of a mother. To explain their creation, we really quickly need to take a quick look at history. I'm gonna oversimplify everything for a bit for the sake of the length of the video. Essentially, a very, very long time ago, the land of Yen was roamed by gods, many of them, all insanely powerful. One day, the Emperor of Yen, the true Lung, decided to oppose them and free his country of them. He did so by allying with one of those gods. This one god essentially betrayed his own kind and helped the armies of Yen with destroying all the other gods. This happened a really, really long time ago, like we are talking thousands of fucking years. Your mom might be able to remember it. And at some point, this one god who betrayed his own kind split into multiple parts, 12 in total. And at a later point, the individual parts asked themselves the question from earlier and turned into individuals. There you go. This is a, again, very oversimplified version of how the siblings were created. What did this god look like, by the way? Well, if I understood everything correctly, you get to fight a weaker version of it in Invitation to Wine. We also get what seems to be his name. And that leads us to our next point. Number 4. That's the term used in Yen when referring to the siblings. Obviously that name stems from their, well, father, I guess? The big dragon guy, alright, the god. Interestingly enough, the get compared to other beings living in Terra, like the Donnies in Kujarek or other powerful entities that get treated like gods by some people and get prayed to and whatnot. Yet in my opinion the term god is not really fitting of them, since they really are just the product of a god splitting itself, right? Something like a godly .zip archive, essentially. Half god maybe? Nah, that's cringe. A better term probably is deity. I like deity. Deity it is. Number 5. It goes without saying, they are powerful as fuck. Like, they are the products of a god splitting apart, you know. But that raw power is not necessarily what I want to talk about at this point. Every single one of the siblings we have seen, and every single one we have heard of so far, has powers which are very unique to them. At this point I'm only gonna talk about the 3 sisters we really know so far though, and they are interesting enough, honestly. NIAN has her heavenly forge thing going on. She is capable of forming physical things, seemingly out of thin air. Everything from this random shaft-like object to entire mobile cities with everything that comes with it. Dusk essentially created the backrooms in Arknights. Multiple ones of them as well. She has many scrolls on which she paints. She paints proper worlds, and they are quite literally proper working worlds with inhabitants and society and whatnot. And if you're not careful, she's gonna throw you into one of those. Link is way cooler than any of that. She has the power to manipulate space. She is a waifuized Palkia. She literally lives on a mountain that has been destroyed by a catastrophe and cannot be found by anybody, the so-called 18th peak of Changshu. How exactly it works? Well, I don't know. If I knew that, then I would also choose to live in a place that doesn't exist, like Wyoming. Interestingly enough, from what we know, absolutely none of those powers have anything to do with Originium arts. In fact, look at this power rating. There is nothing artsy about them, they genuinely just seem to have godly powers to them. One more thing as well, there will be a video on each individual NIAN sister we know about soon, so subscribe, please. Like 50% of, yeah, that stuff, yeah, nice. Number 6. All of them are massive fucking nerds, no other way of putting it. In addition to the individual powers we discussed earlier, every single one of them has an individual interest or hobby that is associated with them. For the most part, those can also be associated to their powers, like Dusk's huge interest in drawing things, and sometimes it's, I would say kinda random, like NIAN's passion for shitty movies. And then there is Link's hobby, which is getting drunk and sleeping. That essentially makes her my soulmate already, and she also enjoys writing things and poetry and whatnot, so maybe she can start making my subtitles or something. Number 7. Relationship with Yen. Now this one is genuinely insanely interesting. We will now talk about how a couple of dragon girls are treated in the political landscape of one of Terra's biggest empires. Essentially, Yen has an official position to watch over the siblings, the so-called supervisor. And you know what? They obey his orders, and they treat him with respect. One of the brothers, for example, was imprisoned by Yen, and the supervisor was like, if you gonna beat me in a board game, I'm gonna let you free. If I beat you, you're gonna stay imprisoned. And guess what? The fucker lost and obeyed the official. Others seem to have a rather professional relationship with Yen. Link, for example, straight up served in the Yenese army for a long ass time. She apparently is a brilliant strategist, securing the country's northern borders against ghosts and whatever roams it. On another note, in Invitation of Wine we straight up see NIAN get an order from the Yenese government, the order to build multiple fucking mobile cities. You can also see how much they respect Yen when we basically see NIAN ask for permission to stay at Rhodes Island. Which leads us to the next point, number 8, relationship with Rhodes Island. Now this one is even more interesting if you ask me. Even though we see Dusk and NIAN get a bit more productive after Link's arrival at Rhodes Island, and even though Cruz calls them operators, they really are just freeloaders here. They are officially guests who are not just staying here because of professional reasons or because they love Amiya's ideals or some bullshit. They really are just freeloaders. You might ask yourself why Cal would allow something like that, and well, she doesn't seem like she wants to oppose them, or even interact with them, confront them in any way. She also doesn't feel like doing something like opposing Nian's personal wishes to go on missions, for example, and she doesn't do anything about the various complaints other operators have with her. Hell, nobody even opposed her wish to send Lava and Cruz deep into Yanni's territory in order to find Dusk. Nobody wants to stop them. So why are they even here? Just to live a life in peace, surrounded by thick walls of a landship and anime girls, while using us to fulfill their wishes? Nope. It's a bit darker than that. We will get into that in a bit. 8.5. Okay, this one is a special one, and it has absolutely nothing to do with the lore of the game, but I gotta say, for fuck's sake, man. They all look fucking sick, alright? Just had to put it out there. Like, just check out their hair. Number 9. Brave shine, if you need a hand to hold, then stay the night. There is a dark future awaiting those three and all the other siblings. Remember how they were all the result of a big god splitting itself apart? Well, there will be a point in time, so the sisters all assume, when they will be forced to reunite into it. On that day, they, as individuals, will all cease to exist and fully reunite into one entity. And from what I understood, there are forces at work in Yen which want to make that happen. The government is aware of that fact, that something like that could happen one day. They have an emergency plan ready, which would include around 30% of the Yenese army getting wiped out, in order to stop the god, but they seem like they would much rather not have to do it. And you see, that's why they respected Nian's wish to go with Rhodes Island. You know, good old Nian has something in mind. Number 10. I only love my bed and my mama, I'm sorry. The reason the Who is Real event exists is that Nian actively tried to find Dusk. The reason some of the events within Invitation to Wine happen is the fact that Nian and Dusk tried to find Link. During both events, Nian managed to convince those two sisters, respectively, to help her with her plan. Her plan to oppose their shared fate of reuniting as one big... I'm gonna be real with you, I read a lot in order to make this video, and I'm not sure whether Nian explicitly mentioned what exactly her intended means of getting to that goal are, but we can be sure of the following. Rhodes Island seems to be a key in that plan, since as from what I gathered, a key aspect of that plan is to bring all the siblings to Rhodes Island. Thank you, Nian, for being an amazing wing woman. And we're gonna end it here, my sweet gamers. If you want some more content, feel free to check out the videos I made on the siblings back in last year, during Who is Real, or go straight into my Arknights playlist for even more content to watch. While you're gonna decide on the next course of action, I'm gonna go ahead and thank my wonderful channel members and give an extra big fat juicy thank you to Daniel Henriquez, Longo, Erwin Heckler, Azriel, Chris, Zephyrinix, Vritten, Ankoku, Neo, Jimshot First, Carousel Ava, Salvessa, and Demoboy125. I'm sorry for saying those out of order, I had some pink sauce today. Well, thanks a lot for your support, guys, and to you, thanks for watching, and I hope that I will see you next time. Cheers!